to another edition of Politics Done Right. As you know, we're doing these in segments as people that are out there in the grassroots go out there and they pass by. We give them their voices. Right now I'm with Death Penalty Action, Abraham J. Bonowitz, co-director and co-founder. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having us.
Excellent. Tell me a little bit about, first of all, what got you started with this organization, Death Penalty Action?
Well, I should back up a little bit and say what got me started on the issue, which was
please do.
I went to a meeting on the campus of Ohio State University 30 years ago or so.
30 years ago?
A long time ago.
Right.
And the person was talking about the death penalty there, and I argued. I said, an eye for an eye, and I'll pull the switch myself, because I thought that was a just punishment when you commit a horrible crime. And I set out to try to prove those people wrong. I found out everything I believed about the death penalty. The truth was the opposite.
How did you try to prove them wrong?
Well, I tried. They said, well, it's cheaper to throw away the key than to execute. And I said, how can that be? And I did research. They said that we have a system that's fair and equal and equally applied. And I found out that actually what matters a lot more than the severity of a crime is money and race and politics and especially geography, the geography of county lines. You have to kill in a county that can afford a death penalty trial. You have to kill in a county that has a prosecutor who's willing to seek a death sentence. If you don't, then you can't get a death sentence.
Right.
And that's part of the unfairness of it. But
so it's unequal justice.
Unequal justice. I mean, do you know what the 4 words are that are carved into the face of the U.S. Supreme Court building?
What is it?
Equal justice under
the law. Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
And if that is the bedrock foundation of our legal system, it's not what we have. And anybody that has their eyes open understands that.
Well, by just saying that, assuming that that's the case, it should seem that it shouldn't have been hard to prove to make the death sentence unconstitutional altogether, right?
Well, you would think. And in fact, that's the argument that we want to take it to the U.S. Supreme Court, our movement, an argument on the Eighth Amendment claim. Not that the death penalty is, well, they've already decided it's not cruel.
Right.
But the other part of the Eighth Amendment is cruel and unusual. That's where we have the winning argument, is the unusual part. Because of this county thing, you know, between 2010 and 2015, there were only 16 counties out of more than 3,000. 16 counties that had more than 5 death sentences.
Wow.
And that's out of more, roughly 3,500 counties.
Right. And how many crimes? Hundreds of thousands.
Oh, well, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you look at who commits murder, who's caught, not everybody that commits murder who's caught is death eligible.
Right.
So if you look just at the death eligible cases and how many of them get a death sentence, it's still a tiny percentage. And even less so when you consider how many people who get a death sentence stay on death row to the point of execution or dying on death row. And that's where you find this really, it's you can't argue with the fact that the vast majority of people who commit murder who are caught, who are even death eligible, don't get a death sentence. How do we choose who does get one? Again, it boils down to what county you kill in, how much money you have for your own defense, what's the race and the prominence of the victim. That's where the real racism is in the death penalty, is the race of the victim. We've had 1,500 executions in this country under the current laws since 1977, and about 80% of those have been for the murder of white people. Even though the victims of violent crime and murder in this country are people of color more than half the time. So that's where, and interestingly, the 1,500th execution was a case in Georgia. The victim in that case happened to be a young black man, about age 25. Why was there a death sentence in that case? Because he happened to be an off-duty corrections officer, so he was law enforcement. If he had not been law enforcement, they might not have even prosecuted the case. Right? I mean, it's that stark, the racism, especially down south. But you don't have to go south even to find racism, right? You get it everywhere. So those are some of the issues. But for me, I like to turn it around also, because what moved my head was these facts. What moved my heart was coming to understand the collateral damage of the death penalty, how it impacts the murder victim family, the families of the person that's accused, law enforcement, people in the courts, people in the prisons who have to work there, whose job it is to execute. That is damaging. Part of our organization, there's now about seven former corrections officers, or actually only one is a corrections officer, a hands-on guy. The rest are executives, wardens, heads of the Department of Correction who have retired from their job as executioners, and now they're joining the anti-death penalty movement to say that what we're doing to the people who have to carry out the executions is also unacceptable. You know, a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, his name is Ron McAndrew, and he's a red hatter, a Trump supporter, right? He's got pictures of him with the bushes on the walls of his house. I've been to his house. But he carried out the last 3 electric chair executions in Florida. And he talks about the men that he killed coming to visit him in his dreams. Okay?
Oh, really?
This is the damage that we're doing. So here's a red hatter, totally Trumper, except he will come out and say death penalty is absolutely unacceptable. A part of his thing is also he's a committed Catholic. He's pro-life across the board, all that. But you know, so what we're doing just on the question of what we're asking state workers to take on as a burden is also a concern, right? So death penalty is on its way out. Unfortunately, the U.S. Supreme Court has shifted a little bit, so the Supreme Court strategy is a question mark as to when they want to take such a case. But you know, because if you get a bad decision, it can be a couple of decades before you get another shot at it.
So ultimately, what do you want? Why did you come to Netroots? Why did you bring this here? What do you expect?
So Netroots is a place where there's lots of people doing lots of different progressive things, and we just wanted to connect with people. We know that criminal justice reform is a big conversation that we all need to have, and you really can't talk about criminal justice reform and not talk about the death penalty. And the path that we're on, May 30th, we abolished the death penalty in New Hampshire, right? So that's New Jersey, New Mexico, Illinois, Connecticut, Maryland, Nebraska, New Hampshire that have legislatively repealed the death penalty.
There's no more death penalty.
Yeah, and now Nebraska, of course, the Governor Ricketts there used his own money to put it on the ballot. And this is after we passed the bill, he vetoed it, and we overrode the veto with a Republican-dominated legislature, right? And anyway, they've brought it back and actually executed a guy. But then also Washington State and New York State and Delaware State, the courts have thrown it out. So we're now at a place where we've got 29 states that still have a death penalty, but only a handful that are actually using it. Yeah. So we're looking for people to, our webpage is deathpenaltyaction.org, and you can go there and sign up. You can take action. You can sign petitions on upcoming executions. You can make a donation to help support the work. You can participate in actions that we do around the country. Just get connected to learn more about the issue.
Well, look, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. I appreciate you coming on with us. It is so important that we discuss this because, as you said, it disproportionately affects minorities. It disproportionately affects the poor. And unless we extricate this from our laws, this disaster will continue.
Here's the last thing I want to make sure people take away.
Yes. We
can be safe from dangerous offenders and hold them accountable without executing them. And that's what we do the vast majority of the time. So if you believe in fairness and justice, even if you believe there are people who deserve whatever they get coming, you can't accept that we have the death penalty and we let this government have the power to kill. And that's the other last thing I'll share about death penalty action. We're only 2.5 years old now. We were created as Donald Trump was being inaugurated because we wanted to make sure there's somebody ready to be in the field outside the prison or whatever we can do to stop him when he decides it's time to start executing federal prisoners, which amazingly he hasn't done yet, and hopefully he won't.
He won't do that.
You don't think so?
Not at all. It's been a pleasure speaking to you.
Hey, thank you so much.
Thank you so kindly, Abram. You have a good one and enjoy the rest of Netroots.
Well, you too. Thank you so much.